Hello friends, I'm astrologer Shannon Gill back with part 2 on March 2023. I did the first part where we looked at Saturn moving into Pisces, which is a once in 28 year cycle where we talked about Saturn being the structures of our world, things that are solid, matter, time and space, 3D realm, moving into the last sign of the zodiac, which is Pisces, which is the mystical realm. It's all things that are boundless and undefinable, and how the two of these energies don't necessarily naturally align, and that was going to be the challenge for us to find integrity and alignment with the spiritual world and with the natural laws. And I went into this in detail on part 1 of March, which you can tune into if you wish. Today, we're going to look at Pluto moving into Aquarius. So I am guessing that by now, most of us are aware that we are merging into this new age of Aquarius, which is this colossal time in evolutionary history that 100 generations behind us have never crossed a threshold such as this, and here we stand. The magnitude is almost inconceivable. And so when we look at the fact that Pluto, which is the last planet, the last of the outer planets to enter into Aquarius, it becomes curious as to, maybe this means that we're truly emerging into this new age, that we're truly arriving, that we're truly going to go through this birth canal. And I talked about this last time. It feels so much to me like we've been having false labor, that it's like Braxton Hicks, it's we've been anticipating, and we've been sort of just enmeshed in the death and the birth energy simultaneously, which, by the way, astrologers don't even necessarily agree on when exactly does one age end and when exactly does the new age begin. It doesn't matter. We're cusping. We're feeling both the decay and the new life in this sort of alchemical cauldron. So for me, the fact that this last planet is moving into Aquarius, it feels like, wow, okay, game on. We have arrived. All right, so breaking this down a little bit. So we look at Pluto first, the planet. Pluto is the planet that rules Scorpio. It is the archetype of the Dark Mother in archetypal astrology. And it's the furthest planet. Therefore, it takes 248 years to go around the zodiac and spends approximately 20 years in each sign. Okay, so it has been in the sign of Capricorn since 2008. Pluto energetically rules the underworld. It rules death and rebirth. If we think about Scorpio, Scorpio is often seen as the snake, right? So this is where reading into code and reading into symbolism and archetypes really helps us to demystify this language of light that has been left for us. And so we think about Pluto and we think, okay, this is this dwarf planet, that rules the underworld, that rules death and rebirth, that rules Scorpio. It's the most powerful force in the universe. And its purpose is that regenerative process, that alchemical process that has to do with digging up the roots, digging up the toxic underworld, the dross, bringing things forth to the surface in order to be transmuted, to turn things from dark into light. So now looking at Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign ruled by Saturn, which rules the structure of our world, the foundation, the roots, has to do with our systems, has to do very much with our government, has to do with all things of the earth, which has to do with resources and tangible assets. Now Pluto, which is shining the light in the underworld in this realm since 2008, has been doing just that, has been unearthing the toxicity within our system and also revealing the corruption within our leadership. And so Pluto has now moved into Aquarius as of March 23rd. Looking at Aquarius, Aquarius is the organismic consciousness. Aquarius is where we come out of the sleepwalk of the Pisces age and we turn on the lights and we remember ourselves as one human family. Aquarius, in simple terms, has to do with humanity. It has to do with the group of us, all of us as one consciousness, and so has to do with society. Aquarius also has to do with evolution. It's about the future, right? We're talking about this new age that we're embarking upon. So it has to do with innovation and progress, has to do with technology. Aquarius has to do with this organismic consciousness, while technology is the outward manifestation of the inner circuitry, which is actually our greater technology. So we talk now about how do we understand the merging of these two archetypes. Pluto simply means death and rebirth, revealing the shadow, moving into Aquarius, which has to do with all of Earth's people. We can look back in history to ask some of these questions, as astrology is essentially a history of cycles. So we look back 248 years ago, as that is the cycle of Pluto, and ask what was going on the planet at that time. Well, it was a time of revolution, massive revolution. It was the American Revolution, the French Revolution. So now we're starting to put the pieces together, right? Pluto is the unearthing, the decay and the rebirth into the sign that rules the people, humanity. And there's something about unearthing or revealing the shadow within the system that causes the revolt, that causes the backlash, that causes the revolutionary energy to rise, which is also a hallmark of Aquarius. So looking back even further, that would be 500-ish years ago when Pluto entered Aquarius, was basically and devastatingly the time when the Europeans came over and essentially destroyed the Native Americans. So this is the level of global transformation that we're talking about. So now, remember, we always have to have the backdrop of the larger cycles behind us. And we talked a lot about this in part 1. How can we birth a new age, which is 2,000 years, without going through some kind of massive alchemical process? We know from just looking at nature that this is how evolution occurs, that this is how we evolve, that this is what life is, that this is essential part of what life is all about, which is this regeneration. So this is where we come full circle and we say this is why March is potentially one of the most intense months, if not the most intense month of the decade. This is why we say that Pluto moving into Aquarius is most likely the most transformative aspect of our lifetime. Another way that we can look at this transit is we can break it down and see Pluto as power. And of course, Aquarius is the people. And we can hope that it could translate as the power to the people. Whenever Pluto was in Capricorn, it was the power in the hands of the government, which we've already established was quite corrupt and toxic. And so now that Pluto is going to be emerging into the sign of Aquarius, where it's going to be for about 45 years, not to mention we're at the dawn of the age, which is 2,150 years, essentially what the vision is and what the highest aspiration is for these transformative energies is that it's a complete transmutation of our world on every level, and that the power is no longer outside of us, that the power structures are no longer power over, that it's central within the organism. And while I feel it's important that we hold the vision of that which we wish to create, because we are that powerful, we also have to walk the razor's edge and not put our heads in the sand and realize that these power structures are, and the people that are puppeteering this system are not going to just lay down their swords. They're not just going to give up their power easily. And so we also have to look at the shadow possibilities, which is powerlessness of the people. And I really see what's happening. It's a real separation in consciousness. Aquarius is one of the signs that has dual governship. It is governed by Saturn, which is more of the traditional ruler, and by Uranus, which more of the modern ruler. Saturn is more connected to the old guard. It's more connected to the sort of herd mentality, which is one shadow aspect that we can see about Aquarius is the faction of people that will maybe be absolutely okay to give away their freedoms, absolutely fine to continue in that old paradigm of looking for the answers outside of themselves, whether it's being told what to do and how to do it and when to do it by their government, by their preacher, or by their doctor. And then there's those of us that are more Uranian, which is the modern ruler. of Aquarius, which are the progressives, the radicals, the visionaries, the ones that are here to spearhead the new earth, the new world, that are going to say absolutely hell no to that being homogenized. So what this means is that if we're going to refuse to go down that path, then we are responsible for creating the new system. We are going to be charged with the mission of spearheading the creation of this new sustainable world, which is all the reasons why it's no longer okay just to think about or talk about how we need to make these changes. We have to, boots on the ground, implement them on a local level, on a grassroots level. And so, as I mentioned, Aquarius also rules technology. And this is another area that is just extremely interesting and important about this shift of planetary energies. So Pluto, again, the darkness, sort of the shadow realm, the revealing, we can already feel the territory that we are traversing, which is the dehumanization of humanity. We are well into the territory of transhumanism already, which is the blending of humans with computers. There's experiments going on with our DNA, with cloning. And this is dangerous territory. So, I don't feel like AI is going anywhere. This is definitely a manifestation of this new age, but I do feel that it's extremely controversial and, as I said, dangerous. And it's going to depend on the consciousness behind it. So I see it sort of like money. When people say, oh, money's the root of all evil, it's really not the case. It has to do with whoever's wielding the energy. And so it's sort of similar, I feel like, with technology. We can program consciousness into technology, into even AI. And also some of the darker shadow players can program AI. So this is all a new terrain for us. These are areas that we have not ever experienced or traversed because no one on the planet has lived through Pluto in Aquarius. So one thing that you want to think about is where this planet is in your own chart, where Pluto is, because this is an area of your life that you're going to be seeing this rapid acceleration of your evolution, this unearthing of shadow, this place in your life that's needing transmutation, that's needing healing, possibly. So you'll want to look at where you have Aquarius in your chart, especially in the first couple of degrees, and then any of the fixed signs. So that would be Leo, that would be Taurus and Scorpio. Then you would also want to look at the cardinal points, the last degrees. So the 28th, 29th degree of Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. Because Pluto, though it has entered Aquarius now, so it's at the 0 point, it's only going to stay there until June, and then it's going to retrograde back to the anaretic degree of Capricorn. Anaretic is the last degree, the 29th degree, also known as the death degree. And it's going to go back and forth between Aquarius, the future, and Capricorn, the old, archaic, dying system, 5 times over the next 2 years. So it's going to be this sort of like possibly 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Well, again, it comes back to, yes, we're in the simultaneous process of birthing and dying and disintegrating. What are the old systems that need to just dissolve? Now, we can see that easily in the outside world, but the question becomes, what are the systems in our own life? The foundation. What are we truly standing on? So this could have to do with our family, our career, our relationships. Capricorn is also traditionally known as the father and, the patriarchy. So the wounded masculine. And so we can look into some of those realms. So it's sort of this interesting time where we're going to be seeing ourselves being rapidly drawn into the future, this higher consciousness, this awakened state, and building this new earth, and then going back and saying, oh, we've forgotten to pull a few roots. There's still some things that need to be taken care of. So these first 3 months where, Pluto's in Aquarius till June 11th, we're getting the sense of what's to come. Whatever's going on right now, pay attention, because the energies that are present, that are revealing themselves, will take full root next year whenever it goes back direct into Aquarius, where it's going to stay most of the year. It's going to retrograde back one more time. So you may or may not feel this shift, because this is a very long, slow grind in a lot of ways. But you remember that we also had Saturn move into Pisces this month of March. So the fact that we have these two outer planets shifting signs is definitely affecting the collective field. And so just a little tiny review of the Saturn Pisces. Saturn is our 3D world. It's our reality. Moving into Pisces, which is all about things feeling like they're dissolving, sort of like, things are ending. It's the last sign of the zodiac. Things are quite surreal. Reality feels very nebulous in a way. You can't really pinpoint. I've had a lot of people my clients feeling sort of dissociative in a way, like they're just watching life as if it's a dream, because in some ways it is, and things have changed so rapidly, and we went through a state of PTSD and are still coming out of that from the pandemic, when life came to a screeching halt. And now we're really and truly getting close to this birth canal, and we can see and we can feel that there's darkness, right? Darkness meaning we can't really see where we're going. We sense something massive. This is where astrology is just absolutely invaluable. I have so much empathy for people that aren't in this realm, that are just experiencing all of this going on with no context. So this is where the value of astrology is exponential, because we can look and we can trust that these are cycles within cycles within cycles. And again, whenever one age ends and another begins, it's the end of an era. And then we look at hermetics and we understand that the way we evolve is through alchemy. So in that way, we can lean in and trust that there's a natural process happening. And even though it's a death of the old, and it's a massive death of the old, death is part of our evolution. And this is where we sort of strap on our seatbelt and we downshift into our deeper awareness and our deeper understanding of ourselves as eternal beings. That in some ways, all of this truly is an illusion. I'm so thankful for my background in Buddhism. And this separation happening in consciousness, it feels very important to understand how to be on the front lines, how to be that tip of the spear, because again, birth is active. And so if you remember back to part 1, the Saturn moving into Pisces, the invitation is to find that discipline, that devotion to the spiritual world. Why are we here? To find alignment with the natural laws, the spiritual laws. So that means the clarification of our vessel, working on ourselves on an energy level, remembering that we are energy beings, and that this is an energy process. This is an energetic journey that we're on. Coming out of the density, the illusion of separation, the sort of amnesia state that we've been in for thousands of years, and waking up to these higher vibrational states, to ourselves as light beings. So we literally have to become lighter. Pluto is going to shock us. It's going to give us information that we would rather not have. There's going to be a lot of disclosure. Cognitive dissonance has been rampant since the pandemic, because for those people that have been sort of just deeply hooked into the narrative, to the old paradigm, to the matrix level of existence, this rapid evolution is very destabilizing. So this is where the light workers come in, the healers. And if you're on this path, or if you feel called to this path, trust that we were born for this time. And there is a way for you to be sustained doing your spiritual work, doing your light work, learning the light language, following the stars, finding alignment with the cosmic dance. That's truly what we're here to do. And so while March is coming to a close, it does not mean that these energies are by any means coming to an end, as I mentioned, just the opposite. Saturn will be in Pisces for almost 3 years. We will be entering into the eclipse portal a week from now. So this is going to be a downshift again into some rapid accelerated transformation. The eclipse portal will open a week from now. I believe it's April 5th with the full moon in Libra. And then we're going to have a series of 2 eclipses. So basically we're going to be in the eclipse portal from April 5th through the end of April till like mid-May. So it's usually like a 6-week period where the energies are sped up and the grounds are shifting. It's a very unstable time energetically. Literally, the metaphor is the lights are going out, right? The disappearance, the obscuration of the light during an eclipse. What creates an eclipse is there's a new or a full moon conjunct the nodal axis, and the nodal axis is the destiny line. So we're talking about our collective destiny, our collective karma and dharma. And when we have eclipses, massive change happens on the planet. There are big endings and there are big beginnings, a lunar and a solar eclipse. So stay tuned. I will definitely be coming back online soon to prepare you for that. And thank you so much for tuning in. Please leave comments, questions. I love having the dialogue. I really appreciate all of you that were communicating with me after the March Part 1. And I'm looking forward to staying in more regular communication with all of you. So many blessings, and thank you for being a part of the shift.